Hello femboys and mask girls, this video is going to be a tier list for Citlali's best weapons. We're going to see all of her weapons and rank them in a tier list based around which are the best for Citlali. So yeah, first of all, let's see her weapon requirements so we can decide what are we going to go for in the tier list. So Citlali is mainly going to be a support, shield or support slash sub DPS. Her damage is going to be considerable too, so we definitely don't want to like completely ignore it, and her damage is going to scale with elemental mastery. Her shields are also going to scale with elemental mastery. Her damage can also crit. Her damage also scales with attack, by the way, but it's going to be very low scaling, so it's not really, it mainly scales with elemental mastery from her passive, but the attack scaling is going to be there. It's not like completely gone. So those are the things you need to know about her. That leads us to the final list of her weapon requirements. I would say first of all, since she's a support, obviously any supportive weapons are always going to be better. Supports in general just want to use supportive weapons, and that's generally going to just give you much more value to your team, which is pretty good. So any weapons that can give damage bonus to your team, attack, energy, stuff like that are going to be top tier in my opinion. Now after that, we're going to be looking for Citlali's own needs. For that, I would say the first thing she wants is going to be elemental mastery, so that's probably going to be the next thing on your weapon list. Her shield is going to scale with elemental mastery. It's going to be buffing most of her damage by a lot, so you definitely just want elemental mastery on her, and your weapon is probably going to be one of the most easiest ways you can get that. After that, I'd say it's probably damage bonus. Any weapons that can give you damage bonus are going to be pretty good, either cryo damage bonus or elemental skill or burst damage bonus. After that is going to be crit rate and crit damage. So as I said before, her damage can crit, so you'd want to take advantage out of that. I wouldn't say focus on it too much though. You probably won't be able to build like sufficient crit values, but just having some crit is going to be nice if you can crit here and there. So having a crit weapon is not particularly going to be bad, but I would say it's definitely low on like the requirements list. And then finally for attack, I wouldn't really say you'd want it, especially on your weapon, but as I said before, it's not going to be fully useless. Your base damage is still going to scale off attack, at least for your elemental burst and some of your elemental skill damage. So yeah, it's not going to be bad, but I definitely wouldn't say go for it on your own weapon. So yeah, I would say this is the final list for requirements for Citlali's weapon. Now let's move on to weapons and rank them in the tier list. So first of all, we have the magic guide. It's going to have an elemental mastery substat, a big one kind of, to be honest, and the passive is going to be completely useless. Just for the elemental mastery substat, as I said before, those are the things you're going to need. I'll put it like low A tier. It's going to be a pretty decent weapon, especially for 3-star. You've got the Thrill and Tails HP substat, which is useless, but the passive that is going to give a lot of attack to the next character that takes the field after Citlali, which is going to be pretty good. If that character needs attack, obviously, which for a lot of main DPSs, they're going to need attack. So yeah, as I said before, any supportive weapons are going to be good, so I would also put it at a high A tier. It's going to be a pretty decent weapon to have on Citlali. Otherworldly Story is just energy recharge, probably like C tier. Emerald Orbit also can give you elemental mastery. The passive is going to be useless, but it gives you like effectively half of the magic guide's elemental mastery, so I wouldn't really see why you would use it. Just use the magic guide. They're both 3-star weapons. You probably have both of them. But yeah, it's still a decent weapon. I put it like B tier just for this small amount of elemental mastery it's going to give you. Twin Nephrite, it's just crit rate. The passive is just movement speed and attack, which is kind of whatever, so probably C tier, I would say. It's also a very low amount of crit rate, so yeah. And then finally, Amber's Bed. It's going to give you elemental mastery and damage bonus, which is pretty good in my opinion. So yeah, honestly, I probably put it like very high B tier too. As you guys can see here, a lot of 3-star weapons are going to be pretty good just because the base attack is not really going to matter. So you just take into account like the substats and the passive, and a lot of weapons are going to be pretty decent on Citlali already. Now moving on to the 4-star options, you have the Favonius Codex. It's going to give you energy recharge, which is not really what you'd want on Citlali, but the passive is going to be the Favonius passive. It's going to be giving a lot of energy to the rest of your party members, which is always good. As I said before, any supportive weapons are going to be probably her top weapons, and this is one of the best supportive weapons in the game. You probably will use some character that's like hungry for energy, and that's going to help you a lot if you're using the Favonius on any characters on your team. So yeah, I'd honestly probably say it's an S tier weapon. It doesn't really give much to Citlali herself, but it's always good for a support character. So yeah, I'd say it deserves low S tier. We've got the Witsit. It's going to give you crit damage as a substat, which is pretty decent, and then the passive is like a dice roll. It can either give you attack, which is not really as good, but it's going to give you a huge amount of attack though, or it can give you elemental damage bonus, which is pretty good because it's going to buff your damage, or it can give you 240 elemental mastery at refinement 1, which is also pretty good. So 2 of these buffs are going to be pretty good, the elemental mastery and the damage bonus, and then you have the cool crit damage substat. So I'd say the Witsit definitely deserves A tier. It's probably going to be one of the best weapons for Citlali. You've got the Sacrificial Fragments is going to give you a huge amount of elemental mastery. The passive is not going to be that useful, especially because you already have enough uptime on the shield already. You don't really need it to reset. But just for the elemental mastery substat, I'd say it's going to be A tier. Royal Grimoire, probably D tier, just attack. Solar Pearl, it's just crit rate. And then it's going to increase your elemental skill and burst damage by 20%, which is basically damage bonus. But you'll need to auto attack once, but it's not really a big deal. I'd say it's probably B tier weapon. Good crit rate, elemental damage bonus, it's cool. Prototype Amber, it's HP as a substat, and then the passive is basically just gonna turn her into a healer after you use your elemental burst. It's completely useless for her, but as I said before, just because it's a supportive weapon, it can be good, especially if you don't have any healers and you just need like some extra HP. I'd say it's kind of decent. It's not the best supportive weapon, but since it just supports your team, it can turn her into a healer, especially if you don't have one, it can be pretty good. So I'd say it's B tier. It's not bad. We got the Map and Mirror, small elemental mastery substat, and then it can give you some elemental damage bonus, which is also pretty decent. Probably B tier too. It's just small stats. Blackcliff Gate, it's just crit damage basically, attack from the substat, but you just never have that, especially with Citlali. So I'll probably put it like C tier, I would say. Eye Perception is just attack, probably like D tier. Wine and Song is just energy recharge and just a useless passive, D tier 2. Frostbearer, same thing, is going D tier. Dodico Tails, D tier. Action Ring, it's also probably going D tier. Also an Eye, D tier 2. Those are just like attack 4-star weapons. They basically just don't give you anything except attack, which is obviously not good. So yeah, it's I'd say mainly D tier weapons. Wandering Even Star, it's gonna have elemental mastery as a substat, which is pretty good. The passive is not good for Citlali herself. It's just gonna turn your elemental mastery into attack, which is not bad. You're gonna gain quite a lot of attack because you're gonna be building elemental mastery on her, but it's still not like so good. The good thing about this weapon though is that it can give the same buff to the rest of your party members, so it can give them small amounts of attack if they have some elemental mastery too. In general, just because it's a supportive weapon, I'd say it's pretty decent. And for the elemental mastery, I'd probably put it like low A tier. For fulfillment, it's just energy recharge and then elemental mastery from the passive, probably B tier, I would say. Sacrificial Jade is just crit rate. It can give you HP and elemental mastery, but you probably won't be on field. Just for the crit rate, I'd probably put it like C tier. Flow Purity, probably D tier in general. It's not really the weapon you want to use. Ballad of the Boundless Blue, it's just energy recharge, normal charge attacks, probably like D tier 2. Ash Graven, Drinking Horn, it's just HP, D tier 2. We have a lot in D tier. Wave Ride and Whirl, D tier 2. And then the final 4-star, we have Ring of Yashe. It's also just HP, so it's going D tier 2. Now, moving on to the 5-star weapons, we probably won't really see many of them being like at the top because, as I said before, their most like key feature, which is the high base attack, is not really going to be valuable here, or at least not as valuable. So yeah, starting off with the Scoured Atlas, it's just an attack stat stick basically. It's just elemental damage bonus and attack, but the elemental damage bonus is going to be so small, so I'll probably say it's low C tier. It's definitely not the good weapon you want to use on Citlali. Last Prayer can be good. It's just crit rate and then some elemental damage bonus, so I'll probably put it like high B tier 2, just the same as the other weapons with this same type. Memory of Dust is just attack, probably D tier. It's a huge amount of attack, so I'd put it like high D tier, but definitely not really want to use it on Citlali. Jade Fault Splendor is just HP and then some elemental damage bonus based on your HP. Probably not the best. I probably put it like very low C tier just for the elemental damage bonus, but it's not really the weapon you want to use. Everlasting Moonglow is just HP, no. D tier. Gyra's Verity, it's basically just a crit damage stat stick. It can give you quite a good amount of crit damage, but I wouldn't really say use it on Citlali, so I'll put it a high C tier, but it doesn't really give you anything else. The passive is going to be completely useless. 1,000 Floating Dreams, it's going to give you a huge amount of elemental mastery, which is pretty good, and then it's going to give you a combination of elemental mastery bonuses, like more elemental mastery or elemental damage bonus, which is probably what you're going to be getting with Citlali, because you probably won't really be using her with many other characters, maybe one at max, and then it can give elemental mastery 2 to the rest of your party members, which is also pretty decent. You probably will be using her with like characters who can melt, and they can take good advantage out of that. Just extra elemental mastery, which is pretty good. So yeah, honestly, I'd say it deserves S tier. Just a good supportive weapon in general, and it's gonna give you a huge amount of elemental mastery. So yeah, I'd say it's probably S tier. So Lifeless Remembrance, it's basically just a crit damage stat stick 2, so it's probably C tier. Cashflow Supervision, crit rate stat stick, same thing, is going C tier. Nuviette's Weapon, crit damage, a huge crit damage substat, which is pretty decent. If you could during the passive, you have like a healer or Fiorina or I don't know. Can be pretty decent. It's just gonna give you some energy and then crit damage. But in general, I'd say it's kind of iffy, so I'll probably put it like very low B tier. Crane's Echoing Call is just attack, and then passive is completely irrelevant. Unless you're playing or like a plunging attack team, I guess it can give you some energy, but generally it's not the weapon you'd want to use. Put it like D tier. Surf's up, a huge crit damage substat, and then the passive is just gonna increase your normal attacks damage, which she doesn't need, so I'd also put it at C tier with the rest of the crit weapons. And then finally her signature weapon is gonna give you a huge elemental mastery substat, the same as the Flow in Dreams, but it's gonna give you more elemental mastery from the passive, and then it's gonna give 28% damage bonus to the active character on the field after you create a shield. So it really is just gives her a huge amount of elemental mastery, and then it's a supportive weapon, just damage bonus to the character on field. It's not really as special, but it's good though. It's just a supportive weapon, which is really surprising. It's one of the few weapons that are not like fully focused on the character using them. So yeah, I'd say it's definitely a good weapon, probably the best, I guess. So it's going S tier, but it's not really, you know, something special. It's just damage bonus to the character on field, and that's it. And for you, it's gonna give you a shit ton of elemental mastery, but you can probably get this from other sources. So yeah, for weapons, I'd say honestly, she has a lot of good options. You know, you have a lot of free-to-play elemental mastery stat sticks, even 3-star stat sticks, like the Magic Guide, for example, and stuff like that. And you have a lot of good 4-star options, and then if you have the Flow in Dreams, it's probably good too, and her signature is kind of decent. So yeah, she has a lot of free-to-play good options. It's really more that she doesn't have any super good options. So all of the weapons are kind of on the same playing field, to be honest. I don't really think she needs any weapon. Just make sure you get enough elemental mastery, and that's pretty much it. But yeah, that was the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.